After I deliberately avoided every encounter with Liu. He chose to stay in Nanjing, so I applied to study at a university. When Liu Ruyan decided to settle in Beijing, I decisively applied to study abroad. I was directed to transmigrate as the malicious, not only bullying my obedient younger, but also trying to steal the original female lead. Liu Ruyan even attempted forcing her to marry me. Eventually, Liu Ruyan, pressured by rumors, married, but right after the wedding, she immediately applied to work in a. She didn't have any interaction with the. Instead, she helped my brother allowing him to marry, have children, and live a. The stark contrast drove the original character completely, even scheming to harm the child. In Liu Ruyan, furious, sent the original character. Ultimately, he suffered and froze to death in a. At this moment, Liu Ruyan had just. I couldn't help but panic. When I was pulled out of the water, it was Liu Ruyan's CPR and that saved my life. People in the countryside, they only know that Liu Ruyan and I were. Now, my mother outside the house is forcing the woman. Otherwise, the news of our close contact will spread throughout. Thinking about the ending of the original story, I quickly opened the door to stop my. Comrade Liu was saving me, not taking advantage of. He was giving me CPR. I don't need Comrade Liu to marry. As soon as I finished, everyone in the room looked at me in shock. After all, before, I was desperate to find a partner, not only taking all. Liu Ruyan wrote to my brother for myself, but almost causing a fatal. Now I suddenly changed my mind. I simply looked at Liu Ruyan and said, "Comrade, thank you for saving me. I understand these medical basics, but I'm taking the college entrance exam. My classmates will definitely gossip about. Can you ask Uncle Liu if I can finish high school in Beijing? My idea is simple. I just want to study hard and live comfortably and buy a few more properties. So when property prices soar it'll be extremely satisfying." Liu Ruyan looked at me sharply. He thought this man must have ulterior motive. Before, he had heard about my many actions towards me. Now he only felt disgust towards me. "If you really want to attend high school in Beiping, I will help you transfer, but I hope you won't have other thoughts." The elder lady seemed a bit. "Comrade Liu, what are you saying? Since things have turned out like this, after all, you are an officer. You can't shirk responsibility." I quickly held my mother back. "Mom, Comrade Liu is an officer. I injured my brother's leg. In this condition, I can't pass the provincial. Even if Comrade Liu wanted to marry me, I just want to attend high school and stay far away. That way, no one will know about this. When I get into college, I can be assigned work in the local." I deliberately lowered my voice. By then, I can find a good partner in Beiping. The elder lady didn't hear but she clearly caught the last sentence. So she nodded repeatedly, pulling her companion along to agree. Liu Ruyan, with his keen hearing, faintly caught my last words, his expression full of mockery. As expected, in the end, it's all about uncle and aunt. I'll return to the unit now and call to prepare once it's ready tomorrow, I'll come pick them up to go to. After saying this, he left without looking. The next day, a military green jeep stopped at the village entrance. My brother and I packed our luggage and headed to the village. We happened to meet Liu Ruyan halfway. "Miss Liu," I greeted her warmly with a smile. Liu Ruyan greeted the Shi family parents, then glanced past me to focus on Shi Qin. "Hello, brother Shi Qin." I greeted him cheerfully from the side, but Liu Ruyan only gave a slight nod and handed the recommendation letter. Shi Qin looked puzzled and asked, "Why do you have my recommendation letter?" "I'll hold on to it for you." Liu Ruyan replied in a cold and calm. I could sense his wariness and rejection toward, as if he was afraid I would destroy my brother's. Honestly, considering my past, it wasn't unreasonable. Shi Qin lowered his head. A faint sense of joy emerged. He could tell Liu Ruyan was protecting him. Thinking of this, he looked at me smugly. I, however, stared straight ahead, already planning my life. The Liu family must know about the original characters and wouldn't likely have a good attitude toward me. So I needed to find a job that provided room to save money for tuition and have a place. Once school started, I'd live on campus. I just needed to make it until I got into. My mother anxiously grabbed my thick arm, continuing to find a partner quickly once you're in. I understood my mother's mindset in this. Holding her hand gently, I reassured her, "Mom, don't worry. When I get to Beijing, I'll definitely find a partner within 3 months." I decided to tell a little lie to calm her down for now. I'd explain everything after I got into. Hearing the mother and son whispering about finding. Liu Ruyan's icy gaze was full of mockery and indifference. Find a good partner and climb up in 3 months? At the village entrance by the jeep, my mother reluctantly gave us countless instructions. Shi Qin could come back home during break, but for me, it'd be. Thinking of this, she handed me her last few eggs before. Liu Ruyan, sitting in the driver's seat, watched coldly through the rearview mirror. I placed the eggs in my blue satchel and looked up. I happened to meet his icy gaze through the rearview mirror. I ignored his expression and covered my face with my clothes. I leaned back in my seat and peacefully fell asleep. The car drove steadily along the dirt road. When we reached a pastry shop in the city, Liu Ruyan stopped the car and went in. When he came out, he was holding a box of old-fashioned cream cake. He handed the cakes to the person sitting in the back seat. "This is the cake I mentioned in the letter to you." "Thank you, Miss Liu," Shiqin said excitedly. He had never eaten cake before. Then he glanced at me beside him. Really, just like a pig, he thought, sleeping all day long. He deliberately mentioned, "Isn't there one for you?" "It's yours," Liu, expressionless as he restarted the car. Shiqin was overjoyed inside. He glanced at me again, with a touch of smug mockery. Carefully, he opened the clear plastic cover, scooped up some white cream with a small plastic spoon. "Thank you, Miss Liu. The cream cake is delicious." While driving over a bumpy section of the clothes covering my face slipped off. I opened my eyes and bent down to pick them up. Shiqin, scared, quickly handed me his cream cake. "Here, you can have. Please don't be angry." Liu Ruyan glanced up at the rearview mirror, expressionless. The atmosphere in the car instantly became tense. If I hadn't transmigrated into the store, I might have believed she was a pitiable and endearing figure. In reality, he was like a blooming white lotus, always pretending to be pitiful. Clearly, the original character had yet he always acted in public as if he were being bullied. The original character, being straightforward, couldn't explain himself and could only suppress Over time, he gained the reputation of oppressing his brother. Thinking of this, I blinked in confusion. "Comrade Liu is your matchmaking partner. Isn't it right to buy food for you? Why would I be angry?" Shiqing raised an eyebrow. Unexpectedly, I ended up displaying such a calm demeanor. "That's not what I mean. I've only eaten half of this cream. You can have the other half." I smiled faintly. My voice was calm and Comrade Liu went out of his way to buy this for you. How could you disregard his thoughtfulness? Besides, I don't like sweet. You can have it. As I spoke, I bent down to pick up the clothes. When I covered my face with them again, I saw through the rearview that Liu Ruyan was gazing at herself dreamily. Anyway, there likely won't be any so I pretended not to. I adjusted the clothes and continued to. There was nothing else to say about the situation. Face slightly red, he retracted the hand holding the cream cake. He gritted his teeth in silence. This time, after things feel a little different. Soon, the car arrived at the train station. 2 soldiers were already waiting there. When they saw me getting out of the car, their eyes lit up involuntarily. No wonder Commander Liu traveled so far. Turns out it was for a match. After getting out, I looked at one of the comrade. "Hello. May I ask where the rest?" My voice was soft and gentle. Hearing this, the accompanying felt a tickle in her ears. Thinking about how Commander Liu and her brother-in-law, this was such a great chance. Of course, the commander should have. So Han Hong asked me to wait. She quickly ran to the other side of the car. "Commander Liu, your brother-in-law, please go with him." Liu Ruyan's tall eyebrows furrowed quickly. "Who is the brother-in-law? Which male comrade gave you the right to call?" Han Hong quickly withdrew her grin. It was then another smartly dressed male comrade. Realizing she might have mistaken the term, she hurriedly "I thought the male comrade who just got out was your matchmaking partner. Pay attention to don't randomly call male comrades. So take comrade number 10 to the rest." Han Hong straightened up and quickly ran back to me, apologetically. "Sorry about that. Comrade Shi, I'll take you to the restroom." "It's fine. My younger brother, Shi Qing, is your Commander Liu. I'm heading to Beijing for." This made Han Hong even more embarrassed. Such a good male comrade. Yet he's not the match. Han Hong felt it was a pity for her Commander Liu. I felt like going as well. Shiqing didn't actually need he just wanted them to know who the real brother-in-law was. Liu Ruyan raised her wrist to check the time. "Your leg isn't in great shape. There might not be enough time. There are restrooms on the train and Miss Liu, I can walk on my own." Actually, his right leg was already capable of walking. It just had a scar. He didn't mention it now, but when he visits a doctor in Beijing, you'll find out anyway. "I'll have Xiaokai accompany you." After saying this, Liu Ruyan turned to make Shiqing's expectant face instantly. He had thought Liu Ruyan would go with him, but now he had no choice but to. After I finished using the rest, I saw Shiqing being led by a soldier, walking this way. Han Hong also noticed Commander Liu's matchmaking. Despite his difficulty walking, it seems the brother-in-law title can't be. Probably they're far from reaching that state. The sound of the train arriving echoed. Eager passengers hurried to the platform. An uncle carrying bamboo baskets rushed past me in a hurry. Suddenly he turned around. The bamboo basket, loaded with dozens, swung and hit me on the back. The unexpected push made me stagger. I instinctively grabbed the patch of green in front of me. Liu Ruyan, who was scanning the station, suddenly felt something bump into his back. Then 2 arms wrapped around his waist. He quickly turned his head. He saw my fresh, handsome face pressed tightly against. The smell of river snail noodles drifted into his. "Let go." Liu Ruyan's voice was icy cold, piercing. He couldn't believe I would make a move on him. And at such a bustling train station, pounce on a woman. Such audacity, it's shame. I also didn't expect it to be Liu Ru. Flustered and embarrassed, I quickly tried, but Liu Ruyan stiffened and stepped back, not caring if I had steadied myself. He mercilessly pushed comrade number 10 aside. Behave yourself. Get rid of your improper intentions. I landed hard on the ground. Han Hong wanted to help me up, but was tripped by a child running by. I felt help. Sorry, Comrade Liu. I didn't mean it. Liu Ruyan's expression, not on purpose? In broad daylight, you openly touched a woman. Absolutely shameless. From now on, maintain proper distance between male and female comrades. If you dare to meet me again, I'll have you sent back. Liu Ruyan's stern, cold face showed no trace of sympathy. If not for the fact that Shi's father saved him, he would have had me arrested and sent for proper ideological reform. When Shiqing returned, he happened to see us arguing. Miss Liu, don't be angry. My brother probably just likes you too much. Please forgive him this once. Then, dragging his injured right leg, he squatted next. Brother, I won't proceed with, but you shouldn't ruin your own reputation like. I'm willing to let you and Miss Liu be. Although Liu Ruyan scolded harshly, she deliberately kept her voice low. And with the noisy surroundings, no one around knew what had happened. But Shiqing intentionally spoke loudly. Everyone thought the elder brother was interested in the younger brother, and he was using such an abnormal to force her to marry him. Suddenly, people started pointing fingers at me. I coldly curled my lips and pinched my thigh hard. My eyes immediately reddened. Then, holding Shiqing's hand, I spoke sorrowfully. Shiqing, you are my own. You weren't even here. Just how could you misunderstand? I was knocked over by a bamboo basket carried by. I stumbled forward. I only saw someone in front, wearing a green, out of trust in the military as a civilian. I grabbed onto Comrade. I didn't want to fall, that's all. Comrade Han Hong can vouch for me. As I spoke, tears streamed down my face. Han Hong finally arrived at the scene and said, you really misunderstood Comrade. Comrade Shi really didn't do it on purpose. Then, she recounted the situation in more detail. Although Han Hong hadn't reacted in time, she managed to stop the uncle immediately. The uncle stood nearby, full of I'm really sorry, young man. My child called out to me, and when I turned, the basket on my shoulder accidentally. Shiqing didn't expect this trouble and immediately looked guilty for misunderstanding. Of course, I wouldn't let him off easy. Shiqing, even though I was the one initially matched with Later, when our parents wanted her to marry me, you heard me say I wouldn't marry. Why do you still misunderstand? Public opinion suddenly reversed. Shiqi's face instantly turned grim. He immediately put on a pitiful look. Grabbing my hand, he started hitting his face with it. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have misunderstood. I pulled my hand back. My voice was calm. Since everything has been clear, my little brother shouldn't misunderstand me again. Shiqi froze for a moment. A trace of unwillingness flashed through. Then he pretended to look obedient. No, I won't. Liu Ruyan tightened her jaw and stepped. This is my fault. I will report it to the teacher for reflection. Let's get on the train first. I wiped away my tears. Curving my lips, I smiled. Public pressure really works wonders. Even someone as important as her admit. As I got up, I said it's fine. Then I headed to where the car had been parked. The train tickets were bought by Han Hong. Since there were no sleeper tickets available, she bought 4 adjacent soft seats instead. After boarding the train, I took out the eggs my mother had packed for me. There were exactly. I handed one to each person, although Liu Ruyan pushed me away, scolding me harshly and leaving in the conservative and reserved 19. I could understand why a woman would act. After calmly dividing the eggs, I sat quietly by the window and ate my lunch. Liu Ruyan looked at the egg handed to her. Her cold, deep eyes were filled with suspicion. He didn't hoard all the eggs. Instead, he shared them. That was something she didn't expect. However, his unusual behavior suggested he was hiding a bigger scheme. Last night, he went to the village to verify my background. It turned out everything was true. This man is now pretending to be gentle and refined. I guess it's all to climb the social ladder, but one thing at a time. After giving his egg to Shiqi, he opened a blue notebook he carried. He took out a ball and began writing something seriously. After finishing my meal, I went to the restroom. When I came out, I saw Liu Ruyan's tall figure. I intended to walk past him with my head down, but the woman suddenly handed me a piece of paper. Comrade Shihao, this is my self-reflection. Please have a look. If there's anything missing, I can add to it. I was a bit surprised. Comrade Liu, you've already apologized. There's no need to be this formal. But Liu Ruyan remained expressionless. She pushed the letter closer to me. Apologizing is one thing. When I make a mistake, I should reflect and critique. I couldn't refuse, even if my freshly washed hands were still damp. Before long, a thumbprint appeared on the clean paper. Liu Ruyan glanced at my slender, well-defined. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Shiki said, the letter I wrote to him was please return it. He only just found out about Shi Qi and didn't dare ask me, so he cautiously told her about it. But those had long been burned in the stove by my original. Shi-Chi was right there watching at the. There was no need to get. When Shi-Chi realized he couldn't take advantage, he waited for me to go to the restroom. He wanted to ruin my generous image in front of. However, I had already considered cutting off past. After all, in this conservative 19, just the fact that the original self nearly caused a death would make me a target of gossip for. And Liu Ruyan, along with the entire Liu family, were already on my list of people to cut ties. So I simply admitted the truth directly. Sorry, those letters have already been burned. Before my little brother could finish his, Liu Ruyan's expression turned cold. She then turned away indifferent. I didn't mind it at all. After all, Liu Ruyan's aloof had already been described in the book. When I returned to my seat, Han Hong looked at me with a hint of curiosity, but still gave me a simple, honest smile. When the train arrived in Beiping, it was already in the military district compound. The headlights of a car illuminated the stained glass windows. Sitting on the sofa, Liu Zheng knew that Liu Ruyan had brought the Shi brothers. On the other side of the sofa, the elderly revolutionary Mrs. Liu, with her, took off her glasses. She glanced at the small car outside the window, then lowered her head again, indifferently continuing to read the newspaper. Regarding my coming to Beiping for Liu Zhengguo's wife, Xie Buruo had a big fight with him. After all, they also knew about my previous usually gentle and elegant. Xie Buruo was so upset she went back, leaving Liu Zhengguo to deal with the mess he had created. When I followed Liu Ruyan into the Liu family, I immediately felt the heavy and oppressive. I took a deep breath, mentally preparing myself. Shi-Chi, on the other hand, he looked around curiously at the new and fascinating. He hadn't expected Miss Liu's home to be so luxurious. Thinking about living here after marriage, the excitement in his eyes could. After putting down the luggage, Liu Ruyan introduced us to the two people. Grandma, we're back. This is Comrade Shihao and Comrade Shi. Liu Zhengguo looked up at the two brothers. In fact, when they walked in, he had already recognized. 17 years ago, he was on a mission near Qiantang village. Unfortunately, he was bitten by a venomous. It was Shi's father who gathered herbs and saved his life. Back then, I wasn't even wiping my runny nose and foolishly smiling. I would hold a porcelain tea mug and feed him, naively calling him uncle. Later, he arranged for his second daughter, a regiment leader. If they liked each other, it would be a joy. If not, he planned to bring me to and arrange a job for me, ensuring the Liu family would. However, he hadn't expected that the once adorable little boy would grow up into such an unlikable man. As for facing Liu Zhengguo's authoritative gaze, I calmly took a step forward and greeted him. Uncle Liu, hello? I apologize for the trouble my coming to Beijing. My fluent Mandarin, paired with a steady tone, prompted Mrs. Liu on the sofa to adjust her glasses as she scrutinized me from head to toe. Shi-Ching, standing to the side, quickly spoke up. Grandma, Uncle Liu, I am Shi-Ching. I've come to Beiping for vocational school, but he was just an inexperienced rural boy. Although he repeated what I said, he stuttered nervously. The two people on the sofa showed subtle expressions of surprise. Apparently, what Liu had told them over the phone was different. I put down my bamboo basket and took out 2 tin boxes with Ruth, placing them on the living room table. Thank you for looking after our family over the years. These are tea leaves my family picked at 3 a.m. this morning. It's a small token of our. We hope you won't mind. A humble smile remained on my face from beginning to end. Shi-Ching, standing nervously beside me, Liu Zhengguo's gaze fell on me, carrying a hint of approval. It's been so. Your family is very. Back then, it was thanks to that I was able to survive. Then she looked at her second daughter, seemingly puzzled. It was different from what she heard on the. Liu Ruyan was also surprised to hear such fluent. After all, she hadn't heard it on the way. I spoke Mandarin, especially my graceful demeanor, which seemed well educated, but he firmly believed that human nature does. The elderly lady motioned for them to sit down. Number 10, your Mandarin is so. You must be good at studying. What rank are you in the class? Just as I was pondering my words, Liu Ruyan handed over my transfer-proof material. Final exam results for total score not exceeding. After Liu Zhengguo saw, his stern lips twitched slightly. He quickly placed the report card on the table. After all, the point wasn't to study. As long as I could graduate high school smoothly, the truth was apparent. Full of disappointment he straightened his chest and pretended to speak up for me. Grandma, Uncle Liu, maybe brother wasn't feeling well at the time, so the final exam results weren't very good. Brother usually does okay in his studies. Shi-Ching wasn't wrong. Indeed, I wasn't feeling well because I had tried to steal his and deliberately caused Shi-Ching to be trampled. When the adults found out, they beat me with a pole. During the beating, I was struck and suffered from vomiting and dizziness, leading to a mild concussion. I lost memory of that day, and to this day, I still don't know what happened that day or how I tied the red cloth and lured the crazed incident behind this. Old Madame Liu and Liu Zhengguo looked injured right leg and quickly understood what he meant. Such a sensible, almost got killed by his, yet still spoke up for his brother. Xiqing, you and your brother are only, it seems like you and your brother are only, so why is your brother, while you just graduated middle, there was too much, and my father had back, so I took 2 years off school to help. Hearing this made old Madame Liu and Liu Zheng, they looked at me again, handsome and charming as I sat beside them. While Xiqing was dark-skinned, and it was clear he had suffered a lot for a moment, everyone's attention was focused on and all of this was within my expectations. I just sat quietly to the side, my deep eyes blinking softly. Lu Ruyan glanced at me briefly, then quickly averted her gaze coldly. Grandma, I have to report back to work. Tomorrow I'll take Xiqing to the hospital for treatment. After finishing, she strode out gracefully, returning with her items late, holding a new Kun Kun brand suitcase in her hand. This suitcase is for you, as a back-to-school. Xiqing's eyes widened in amazement. Miss Liu, I can't accept it. But Liu Ruyan insisted on hand directly to Xiqing. When you go to the dormitory, you can carry this. It's quite convenient. It has a lock, so you can secure your belongings. Xiqing touched it, unwilling to let go. Looking at Liu Ruyan with eyes full of joy. By the way, Uncle also prepared a gift as a reward for getting into vocational. He motioned for Liu Ruyan to fetch a Soviet-made fountain pen. Qing carefully opened the gift box containing the pen. Inside was a beautiful silver-gleamed fountain pen. Thank you, Uncle Liu. I will definitely study hard. Xiqing bowed deeply, mimicking my style. Then suddenly, as if real, he deliberately looked at Liu Zheng. What about my brother? The cheerful atmosphere. The atmosphere suddenly turns. Liu Zhengguo smiled subtly, his intention to, don't worry. When you graduate Uncle will also prepare a graduate. I simply smiled faintly and nodded, saying thank you. All of this matched the original. The original version, who didn't receive, had caused a scene, making Liu Ruyan dislike him even more. Grandma, Dad, I'll be heading off. After saying that, he glanced, uncertain whether after I would maintain this composed and elegant. Just as he reached, the door swung open. A girl carrying a net bag of watermelon walked in like she was at home. Ruyan, you're back. So how is your future brother-in-law? As she turned her head, she saw me sitting in her shy, youthful face turned a bit red. Brother-in-law is really even better looking than my university's. Liu Zhengguo coughed twice and introduced the newcomer. This is one of your. They will both be studying here. Shihao will attend high school in Beijing, and Xiqing has gotten into vocation. Liu Zhengguo's meaning was clear. The two were only Liu Ruyan's brother. Then he introduced the two brothers. This is Ruyan's cousin, Meng Xingyu. She's a sophomore at Nanhua University. The high school you're transferring to is also her alma mater. If there's anything you don't understand, I stood up and greeted her. Hello, Sister Xingyu. My brother Xiqing is Liu Comrade's blind date part. Meng Xingyu had mistaken and felt a bit awkward. Sister Xingyu, my name is You're amazing. You're actually a university student. I should really learn from you. Xiqing smiled sweetly, but gripped the pen box tightly in his. He was convinced they would eventually say. Meng Xingyu felt a bit embarrassed. You're great too. You got into a technical school. Then he glanced at the two again. It's really strange. Obviously, I'm the older brother, and why am I not the one going on a blind date? Liu Ruyan took in his actions completely. Her eyes were sharp. Leave the watermelon here and go. With that, Liu Ruyan pulled him out, thinking about finding someone young and. Sure enough, Pan Gaoji and Meng Xingyu both. Quickly, she warned him to stay away from her house. Although puzzled why cousin said that, he, afraid of the cold-faced, had to agree. On the other side, after I finished eating with old lady Liu instructed Aunt to move Xiqing's luggage to a room on the second. I didn't know you were coming to Beiping, but for now, there's only one vacant room in the house. Since Xiqing injured his leg, you can share a room with Aunt Wang. Okay, Granny Liu. My voice was crisp and without any. I got up to clear the dishes on the table. Seeing this, Xiqing quickly stood up to help. However, old lady Liu told him to go upstairs. Yes, just leave it. I'll clean up. Aunt Wang said, taking Xiqing's luggage and helping him up. Standing on the wooden staircase, Xiqing looked at me walking into the kitchen with. He smiled faintly. Liu Zhengguo wanted me to rest in my room too, but he was stopped by a look from old lady Liu. Only when the living room was left with just the two did Liu Zhengguo finally speak up. Mom, are you being too harsh on Shihu? Just let them share a room. It's not like they can't fit on one bed. Old lady Liu took a sip of tea. Call your younger sister later. Tell her to keep. Don't let him have any contact with me. What's going on? Have Xinyu tutor Shiho. Maybe his grades will improve after the school. I think you've forgotten what Ruyan told you over the phone. He even called his own younger brother for the sake of. Now it's clear he's just here to climb this, looking for a match. Who knows if he'll set his sights on Xinyu. If he behaves himself, we'll support him through high school. But if he stirs up trouble and we'll immediately send him back to the country. Old Lady Lu stood up and returned to her room after I finished washing the pots and dishes and wiped. Only when I heard the two in the living room leave did I come out of the kitchen. I knew Granny Lu deliberately wanted me to. I had already thought it through on the train. I planned to find a summer job as a live-in. That way, I wouldn't have to stay at the Liu. So when I saw Aunt Wang, my eyes lit up. Granny Lu letting me stay with it was exactly what I want. When Aunt Wang came downstairs and saw the spotlight, she felt a little this young man is something. You're a guest? Go back to your room and rest. I just smiled slightly. My brother and I staying at the Liu house. You'll have to do twice the work and cook for two. Make meals for two more. As that one sentence hit Aunt Wang right in the heart. She liked me even more. Taking the chance, I spoke up. So to avoid troubling you and Uncle Liu, I was thinking of finding a summer job cooking and doing laundry. I also want to save some money for high school. Do you know anyone who might need help? Before I could finish my sentence, Aunt Wang grabbed my hand and smiled broadly. You know, what a coincidence. I know a housekeeper working. Her husband broke his leg, so she wants to return to her home, but she needs someone to. If you're serious about this, I can ask. I was overjoyed. Thank you, Aunt Wang. I'll go with you tomorrow morning. I can also help carry things. I'll help carry some things along. The next day at 2, I woke up with Aunt Wang to make breakfast. Then we went to the market to buy. By the time Liu Ruyan came to pick up Shiqin for the whole family had already eaten. Not seeing me in the living room, she naturally assumed I was still asleep in my room. After greeting Granny Liu, she took Shiqin to the military hospital for. In the car, Shiqin recalled Granny Liu's words from the night before. He turned to look at Liu Ruyan, who was focused. Miss Liu? Do you know if Sister Xingyu is seeing someone? Why are you asking this? Liu Ruyan asked sharply. Is it for my... He thinks Sister Xingyu is a college student, pretty, and her mom is a high school grade director. Maybe he heard that? Sister Xingyu also lives in the... He left early this morning. The car, which had been driving smoothly, suddenly braked hard. I knew he wouldn't behave. He just arrived at the Liu house and already has his... He pretends to be honest and well-behaved. Miss Liu, my brother knows you wouldn't, so he told me not to mention this. If Sister Xinyu has a boyfriend, I'll persuade my sister. Inside, I was thinking, as long as no one will compare him to me anymore. What do I have besides a good-looking face? Why do adults always praise him and favor him? He feels the need to trample me underfoot. Liu Ruyan didn't respond. She gripped the steering wheel and kept driving. After a checkup at the orthopedic department of the Shiqin's right leg had mostly recovered. When they returned to the Liu house, it was all. Aunt Wang was in the kitchen. I was still nowhere to be seen. Liu Ruyan went to the Meng house again. She found out that Meng Xinyu had gone fishing with high school. She frowned and glanced at her watch, noting the time for her outing request. She only hoped Meng Xinyu wasn't with me. Meanwhile, I returned to the Liu house after my nap. Aunt Wang brought a towel soaked in cool water. She wiped my face. So how did it go? I nodded happily. At first, I was too young and wasn't going to, but after seeing my reference letter from them and hearing that I was working during the summer, they immediately agreed. After dinner that evening, when old lady Liu and Shiqin had returned, I went to the study. I told Liu Jianguo about the next day. Liu Jianguo was surprised, but it strengthened his belief that I was a good kid. It's fine if you want to use the summer to gain, but don't neglect your study. After graduating high school, finding a job won't be difficult. I knew with the original grades, claiming I'd work hard to get wouldn't be convincing. So I simply promised to study hard and not fall behind. After leaving the study, I went to the bathroom to shower. I was the last one to shower. After wash, I sorted everyone's dirty clothes and soaked them. Then I added some Icon brand detergent. With the lights off and moonlight streaming through the window, I began scrubbing the... In the 1980s, resources and electricity was expensive. I wanted to thank Aunt Wang for helping me find this job. After all, she had done me a big favor. As I was washing, the bathroom door suddenly... I was startled. Turning around, I saw a figure standing in the door. I naturally thought it was Liu Jianguo. After all, he was the only one who worked. Uncle Liu, do you need the bathroom? Wait a moment. As I spoke, I shook the detergent foam off and moved the basin to the corner. The bright moonlight streaming through illuminated me completely. My freshly washed hair was still damp. I was wearing a tank top and shorts. My abs, all 18 of them, ripped. The scene made the person standing outside the door retreat. They took a large step back and turned towards the direction of the study. Liu Ruyan had rarely interacted with men growing up. The sudden sight made her throat tighten. I felt a bit puzzled, calling out lightly to the Uncle Liu, but seeing no response, I let it go. Liu Ruyan closed the study door. Her body was tense, and her mind replayed the scene at the train station where my muscular chest had pressed against her back. Her night vision was naturally good, and she had undergone special training. This time, she had come back to retrieve, hearing water sounds from the bathroom. With no light on inside, she thought someone had forgotten to turn off the faucet, but she hadn't expected to witness that scene. Her chest heaved, breathing deeply, feeling the air she inhaled sting and suffocate her. Only after I finished hanging out the laundry and returned to my room did she retrieve the documents from the study and come out. On the clothesline in the court, clothes were neatly hung but still dripping, apparently, and drops of water hadn't been wrung out thoroughly. Almost instinctively, Liu Ruyan set the documents aside and re-wrung the clothes one by one before hanging them. Then came a pair of black briefs. She immediately looked away, her ears turning slightly. A cool breeze blew past, and the wooden clip holding the black briefs came loose. The black briefs fell to the ground. Quickly reacting, Liu Ruyan caught, but the next second, she realized what she had done. Her lips tightened in frustration. She hesitated, unsure whether to pick. After a brief internal struggle, finally, the plan was he took the documents and returned to his. After returning, he went out for a cold shower. But every time he closed his eyes, those images from earlier uncontrollably they surfaced. He, usually so calm and had never experienced such emotion, especially since he was a hypocritical and power-hungry man. In the end, he got out of bed and he took out a book of Chairman Mao and meticulously copied past. The next day, I woke up again at 4:30. When I woke up, my black shorts had been blown to the floor. There wasn't enough time I had to pack them into the bed. When Aunt Wang opened the door, she saw, "Why did you wash all the clothes overnight?" I stuck out my tongue and said, "I don't have much to thank you for, so I washed all the family's clothes. After I finish making breakfast, I'll head to the principal's house. When Grandma Liu and Uncle Liu return, please let them know for me. No need. I'll take care of it myself. Go ahead to Principal Song. Here, take these 2 corns to eat on the way." Unable to refuse, I carried the bamboo basket and left. Before leaving, I smiled and waved to Aunt. I felt that I might not return after this. The salary from Principal Song would be the only concern left was where to stay during winter. I definitely wouldn't return to the Liu family. When Shiqing heard I became a housemaid, he sneered cold. He prayed I'd be deceived and sold off. But upon learning Aunt Wang and the employer was Miss Liu, a military, Shiqing raised his head. With a worried look, he said, "But my brother doesn't know how to cook. Last time during the harvest, he cooked once, and the whole family ended up with food poisoning. After that, no one ever let him cook again." Liu Jiangguo clearly hadn't thought, but he still chose to trust that if I couldn't cook, Principal Song wouldn't keep me around. Aunt Wang also spoke up. "That young man has been so quick, and he's been a great help to me over the past few. Even the clothes this morning were washed by him." However, Grandma Liu looked serious. "Did you see him cook? Prepare any meal?" This question left Aunt Wang. Indeed, she had done all the cooking. I had only been assisting her. Seeing this, Grandma Liu slammed her chopsticks heavily on. "What? You introduced a troublemaking lazy person to be a housemaid. Go and bring him back immediately." Aunt Wang was startled, her face full of panic. By this time, I should have arrived at Principal. I didn't even know where he lived. Grandma Liu turned to Liu Jiangguo. "Call Ruyan immediately and have him contact Principal Song to bring the." Liu Jiangguo trusted me, but Shiqing wouldn't lie either. He went to and dialed Liu Ruyan's office phone. After hearing the situation, Liu Ruyan realized, "I'll call Principal Song's son immediately." "Dad, don't worry. It's not lunchtime yet." But as it turned out, Principal Song's and couldn't answer the phone. There was no Liu Ruyan had to go to Principal Song's house himself. But just as he stepped out of the office, he was called back for an urgent. Orders are absolute. Without hesitation, Liu Ruyan headed straight to the. By the time the meeting ended, it was already. Dr. Song was still in the operating room. Liu Ruyan grabbed his car, jumped into the car, and headed straight. He intended to pick me up and apologize to Principal. But when he arrived at Principal Song's door, the scene before him completely embarrassed him.